Setting boundaries is a concept that is so elusive to so many of us as moms. We know we need to be better about setting boundaries, but then we try and a lot of times they fall short. They'll walk all over us, or we feel guilty and regret having tried to set the boundaries that we did. So I want to hold space for that today and talk more about what setting boundaries really means and what this can look like in your everyday life so that you really feel effective in setting boundaries and confident and free of guilt or shame around setting those boundaries when you do. I think one of the most important things for us to start off with is acknowledging that setting boundaries is never easy. There's so much about our upbringing as girls to be appeasing to other people, to not make waves, to please other people rather than making ourselves and our wants and needs the priority. So that is really hardwired in so many of us. And so when we do try to set a boundary and protect what matters most to us, it can really feel against our nature. It can really bring up big feelings because our nervous system was conditioned to protect us by saying, nope, what we're going to do is we're just going to make sure everyone else is happy, everyone else's needs are met, and it's okay. We'll get by. We'll be fine. Like, it's much easier to just not make waves. And I think it's also really important to say that it's natural to care about other people and not wanting to cause them feelings of discomfort or upset or even rejection. That's not our intention when we set boundaries, but sometimes it can be a byproduct of the boundary, and that doesn't feel good to us either. So I think that boundaries are something that's just so complex and multi-dimensional, and it can be really hard to feel confident in how we approach it when we're not really clear on the best way to do it so we can have the best possible outcome for everyone involved. Now, I have to admit, setting boundaries is something that I really struggled with for years, both in my classroom and with my own kids. And it wasn't until the last couple of years where I really started to get clear on what effective boundaries really are. Because so often we're told that setting a boundary means that if someone doesn't do what we want them to do, then we are going to present them with a consequence, right? But what that ends up doing is creating conditions where we are trying to control the behavior of someone else. And trying to coerce behavior from someone else doesn't feel good. And it's also ineffective. And it's also not how we want to teach our own kids to be problem solvers. Boundaries instead are about focusing on what I will or won't do in any given situation or set of conditions. So now I really picture this kind of bubble around myself. And it's not about me reaching through that bubble and trying to get someone else to do something. Because what's going to happen when I try to reach through that bubble, right? It's going to pop. It's going to fall apart. It's going to burst. Instead, what I'm focused on when I think of my boundaries is what I'm going to do to protect that bubble. I'm not going to try to reach through the bubble, but what I am going to think about is what will I or won't I do to move around the situation and navigate it in order to maintain that boundary, right? And at the end of the day, what that means is boundaries are about being really clear on what matters and is deeply important to you, clear on what you want to be, clear on the life you want to live. And this takes time. So if you're feeling uncertain about, well, I don't really know what I want in a situation like this, I don't really know, I just know how things should be, right? Well, then take time, make space in your day, which I know feels hard, but even if it's just 5 minutes on your drive to the gas station or journaling before you go to bed, whatever it is. Sometimes I like to use voice notes on my phone or my watch while I'm out for a walk. And I just stream of consciousness, say what I'm thinking. And I really don't go back and listen to them. It's more about just speaking my thoughts instead of writing them. Taking the time for that reflection or that journaling allows for you to really process how you're feeling. And I think with that too, taking time for podcasts like this one or listening to personal development audiobooks, or like for me, I've had so much fun learning about human design lately. All of these are expanding my own self-awareness. And the more that I put time into that, in these little pockets of time, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, I've started to become so much clearer on the things that really matter to me. And I've found that when I'm really rooted in the things that I value or the things that should be of priority because they matter to me, it becomes a lot easier for me to understand when I go to set a boundary, why I'm trying to set that boundary, what I'm trying to protect or maintain or keep intact. And what I've found is that when you are clear on your deeper purpose or your deeper meaning behind your boundary, having to say no or setting any other kind of boundary becomes a lot less about relationship dynamics, people pleasing, and more around choosing to approach life in order to support the values and priorities that I live by. It makes setting those boundaries so much less personal about the other person, right? Because it's just about my own personal clarity and what is important and meaningful to me. And I'll give you an example of this. I had to take one of my kids into the store the other day to buy a little birthday prize for a classroom celebration for their birthday. And our whole purpose of being there was to buy those gifts for the classmates who would be playing birthday bingo. This was not about getting something for themselves. And what I've learned as a parent is that it really matters to me that my kids learn how to be generous and giving. And so I've made it a habit at times to make sure that when we go into a store, we're really intentional about why we're there. Yes, sometimes we're there to get something fun for you. Yes, maybe we will grab a treat when we're done. Other times, we might be there for a different purpose, to focus on buying a birthday gift for going to your friend's birthday. Let's focus on the feeling of having a generous spirit and considering what someone else might enjoy rather than what you would enjoy. Being really clear on that helped me set a boundary with my child when they started to shop for themselves. They lost sight of the purpose of our visit, which was to get prizes for their classmates. They got so upset with me when I wouldn't let them get this keychain Pac-Man game that was on the shelf that, yeah, it was like $5. No big deal. Easily could have bought it. But because I was clear on what I wanted my child to get out of this experience, or maybe they weren't going to get it out of this trip, but it might help set the tone for future visits like this one, I was able to say, we are here to buy prizes for your friends. We can come back when you have your money and we can make a special trip for you to get what you would like for yourself. And they weren't happy with me. They cried. They wanted to be comforted. And I was able to give them comfort, but I was also able to say, you know what? If you want, you can help pick out the prizes, or if that feels too hard right now, I can do it. And it wasn't a matter of me being reactive. It wasn't a matter of me trying to control them. What it became clear to me in that moment was I needed to decide what I would or wouldn't do in that situation. I knew I wouldn't buy the Pac-Man toy for them because that wasn't why we were there. But I also recognized that if they were too upset to do the shopping, that was fine too. I have to hold space for their feelings because they're entitled to them, right? But in that situation, if they were too upset to pick the prizes, then I would do it. Do you see how setting the boundary was focused on what I would or wouldn't do? By the time we left the store, they had picked out the prizes themselves. They were calm and they understood we would come back. And I don't feel guilty that I didn't let them get what they wanted. I don't feel bad that they were upset because I know feelings are part of the human experience. And I also don't feel bad because I was really clear on the bigger picture that I wanted to be a part of my child's experience. I really do want them to learn how to be able to see past their own wants for the purpose of also showing care for other people. Now, we're going to be going back to the store and they're going to go get what they want. So this isn't about them ignoring their desires, right? It's about tempering them, learning that it's okay to have a little bit of delayed gratification and that there will be the time and place to go back and get those things. So I hope that sets a clear example of how boundary setting can really work in parenthood, how setting boundaries can work as a parent, but really even beyond that. The more you can get clear on what matters to you and you're clear on your deeper why behind how you're feeling in any given situation. And if you can ask yourself, well, what will I do in this situation or what won't I do? It becomes more about controlling your own behaviors and your own next steps and less about trying to manipulate other people, which never feels good. So give that reframe a try. Let me know what you think about it. Go ahead and leave a review or a comment for this episode to share those thoughts. I love hearing from you. There's actually this great comment that came through from an episode a couple weeks ago that I wanted to share with you because I thought it was such a perfect example of how a review does not have to be something that's like really well thought out or flowery. It can really be conversational. And I have so much fun replying to these whenever I see them. So Funky Felix 1985 said, "Love your podcasts." Thank you. "My littlest just started school this week, so I'm using that time to work on my goals. And your podcast gave me such inspiration and confidence. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to share feedback like that." This comment was from the episode about when you need a real break, and there were 3 ways to finally carve out that breathing room that you deserve. So I love that this was such a perfect fit for her life in that moment. And those are the kinds of things that I love to hear from you. So I really appreciate when you take the time to leave a comment or review. Thank you so much for doing that. And stay tuned. We will be working in the next few weeks on really focusing on how to bring more intention and structure into your life. I'm really looking forward to putting together a special resource that is going to help all of us, myself included, really focus each month on getting clear about the month ahead and what we could be doing to feel like life is more manageable and doable, and that we're really focused on the things that matter most to you, or in my case, me, so that we can really focus on the things that matter most to us as individuals and on behalf of our families. I feel like that's something that's really missing in our lives. So stay tuned. I'll be sharing more in the weeks ahead. So if you're not already following this podcast, be sure to hit follow so that you hear more information as I share in the weeks to come. Bye for now.